Exar Kun, Dark Fallen Jedi, undisputed Sith Lord, though not connected to the Sith Empire directly, creator of the Double Blade, nearly destroying the galaxy he once protected. One of the most violent and dangerous forces of the galaxy in the Age of the Old Republic, Exar Kun was one of the most feared warriors and feared forces in the galaxy, and his effects still hold true today. Horus Lupercal, the Emperor's favorite son, the War Master, greatest of all the Primarchs, fallen to chaos, nearly tearing the galaxy asunder and forever damaging the Imperium. This monster decimated a once powerful dream that the Imperium had. But what would it be if the War Master clashed with the Dark Lord of the Sith? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Exar Kun was the undisputed master of the blade. It was no secret because of his teacher, Photo CS Vosk, whom he killed in single combat. As I said earlier, he was the creator of the double blade lightsaber, and with it, he became nearly unstoppable, cutting down multiple Jedi who were also masters of the blade. He was also a capable leader, leading the Asari warriors into combat, into straight battle with the Jedi and the forces of the Republic. He was a master strategist, master combatant, and adept in the Sith. How adept? Even the likes of Freedon Nad, the former Emperor of the Sith, his spirit proclaimed that Exar Kun was the true Sith heir. He was the true Emperor of the Sith. Even his power is even rivaled today. Most people agree, and this is tenuous, but I would believe it, is that it was said that Exar Kun's ability, at his high point, he was equal on power with Darth Sidious, who we know in canon now was meant to be the most powerful Sith at the time. This Exar Kun was a master general, complete with also constantly thinking of how to beat his opponents in combat. And even if you could beat him which they did, the Jedi Order only got lucky fighting Exar Kun. That was really it. It was that they got lucky at defeating him because he was so adept with the dark art of the Sith, he cast a ritual sacrificing his army so that his soul would live on and be unable to be destroyed, leading to the Sith trapping him in the Temple of Yavin. You know, that temple in Yavin 4. Make no mistake, Exar Kun was one of the most, if not the most, dangerous threat to the Old Republic during the age of the Sith Jedi Wars. Exar brought the galaxy to the brink, unlike any Sith outside of the original Sith Empire Vitite himself. Revan came close, but I think we can all agree that Exar was just a master general, a master swordsman, and cruelty incarnate. His abilities with the Force, and imbuing his own lightsaber with the dark side, cutting you down to the very soul, says something else. Make no mistake, Exar Kun was a powerful Dark Lord, and one who was always remembered to be a master of the blade, a master of terror, and a master of the dark side of the arts. Even using Sith magic and Sith abilities that even the ancient Sith were like, wow, I didn't know he could do that. So, needless to say, there has been very few threats to the galaxy like there were with Exar Kun, a man who who put the galaxy in flames. But, you know, the same could be said for his opponent, another man who was a hero of his kind, and then let the galaxy burn by his own hand. So, let's talk about him next. Before he even fell to chaos, Horus Lupercal was the War Master, second in command only to the Emperor of Man himself. He was hailed as the greatest Primarch of the Imperium, a true son of the Emperor. But, of course, we all know how that story went. Even before he fell to chaos, Horus Lupercal was a master strategist, a master of combat, and could easily figure out several moves ahead of his opponents. And then, when he fell to Chaos, all of those abilities were increased. And on top of that, Horus was imbued with the power of the all four Chaos Gods simultaneously. This was a man who none of the Primarchs could beat in full combat, defeating Russ, killing Sanguinius, and doing battle with the other Primarchs, as well as countless Space Marines, and even his own brothers who sided with him. Horus was nothing short of a monster. On top of that, as I said, his armor allowed him to survive several forms of attacks. He was imbued with the power of chaos itself. With the power of the Chaos Gods, he struck down Sanguinius and nearly killed the Emperor of Mankind, leaving him as a corpse on the throne. To understate that Horus was nothing short of the man who just decimated the galaxy is hard to say. It's easy enough to say that Horus was capable of, tearing the galaxy asunder, but that was only because he had a great mind behind him. Had he chosen his allies better, outside of Angron, Fulgrim, and Conrad, and Perturabo, he possibly, Perturabo was doing all the work, but Horus, had he had better allies, he could have easily torn the galaxy asunder, and came close, so close, to killing his father. With the power of chaos at his side, energy projections, mental abilities, he could bend reality towards the end of it. Horus was dangerous. Horus was a master. He earned the title of War Master. And he made damn sure that every opponent that he came across, whether they be friend or foe, understood that when you challenged Horus, you courted death. His size, his strength, his armor, his knowledge of chaos and of combat made him a force to be reckoned with, and was the reason why the great Imperial Truth was torn asunder. I don't think I can, every time I talk about Horus, I don't think I can do justice with the powers that he had, and how lucky the Imperium of Man managed to survive, but it was forever crippled by Horus's campaign to bring the world to the dark, ruinous powers. Master of dark energy, master of a mace and sword and claws. There was nothing you could do. If you faced Horus, you may as well have been dead. But would that be the case with Exar Kun? As always, it's always difficult to determine who would be a champion in a one-on-one combat. The big thing you have to understand is that Kun and Horus were masters of war. Constantly poking and prodding their opponents, they were always thinking 2 steps ahead in combat. Even in single combat, Horus and Exar were no strangers to the art of war. Both of them were imbued with powers of chaos, and both knew how to use their powers in their own right. And keep in mind, it would be hard for a lightsaber cutting through ceramite armor of a Primarch. Is it possible? I don't know, but for sake of argument, let us say it is. Since, as I said, Exar imbued the dark side into his lightsaber that allowed him to cut deeper than before. So we have to take that into account. One of the things we have to take into account is that Exar survived something Horus did not. You see, Horus Lupercal, when he did battle with the Emperor, as I said, he nearly killed him, but it was the Emperor who came out as the victor. But in doing so, Horus's body was completely annihilated, body and soul. And as we know, when you become part of the Immaterium, you stay like that, and are capable of coming back, as we saw with Fulgrim and Angron and others. But the thing of it is that after the Emperor destroyed his body, his soul was annihilated too, along with, and yes, there's been clones, but they were never the true Horus. Exar, on the other hand, was destroyed on a physical level, but it was very clear that the Jedi could not destroy him spiritually. On the Immaterium, the Jedi were unable to destroy Exar, only managed to seal him away, in which he became a threat in later times. meaning that if Horus does slay Exar, he is more than capable of coming back as a Sith spirit and attacking him on the spiritual plane. Something of which, even though yes, this would be Horus having the power of the dark gods behind him, if Exar is capable of holding his own in combat against the likes of Horus on the immaterial level, then it would be suffice to say that Horus could actually lose this fight. But on the other end of that spectrum, remember, it was only a lucky shot. It was only through willpower that the Emperor managed to defeat Horus. So on top of that, Horus is going to realize that Exar is going to be trying to bait him into a fight on this level. So Horus could easily outmaneuver Exar and attack him physically, also using the power of the dark gods to decimate his spirit on that plane as well. So this is a lot tougher than you would think. On physical combat, Horus and Exar would probably be matching each other in terms of strength and speed on the battlefield. In a one-on-one match, both would be constantly testing each other's. The two would be locked in hours, I would imagine, of combat, each trying to test one another's skills and abilities on the physical plane, as well as their abilities with the Immaterium and the Force. It's difficult to say who could land the killing blow first, but I would imagine Horus would be smart enough to learn that fighting Exar close range would be not in his best interest. He would have to constantly test his Exar's defensive and offensive capabilities with both the Force and the lightsaber, also realizing that his lightsaber, once cutting into him, would damage him on both a physical and immaterial level. As such, Horus would have to learn real quick not to get touched by that lightsaber. But would the dark side and the powers of chaos cancel each other out? I don't think we can answer that question properly, because dark side power, regardless, is kind of hard to measure in terms of power scaling. In the end, it's difficult to say who could come out on top in this matchup. It would depend solely on Horus and Exar and their respective abilities, and if they could be able to cancel each other out in single combat. Which, again, it's hard to tell, because dark side powers and chaos powers are incredibly hard to measure. But in terms of physical power, outside of their powers of the dark side and chaos, I think these two would be pretty matched in physical combat. So, in that regard, I think this would be in a battle between Horus's mace and Exar's lightsaber. It would be a fun match to see. But you guys tell me in the comments below, who do you think would come out on top in a one-on-one match between Horus Lupercal and Exar Kun? This was a fun video to make, and I hope you all enjoyed this. I don't plan to make a lot of these, so hope you all enjoyed. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. See you next time in the Multiverse. Oh, one more thing I wanted to talk about real quick. Yes, I know this was on the poll on my Patreon for the next verses, but I saw that one was losing, and I really wanted to talk about this one, so I decided, you know what, fuck it, it's my channel, I'll do what I want. So, hence, I decided to make a whole video about this. So, yeah, other than that, as I said before, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.